Hi, I'm Chris Cooper. Welcome to the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Thanks for joining us. Have you ever found a plant you wish you had more of, but don't want to spend a small fortune? Today, we're going to explore ways to increase your favorites without hurting your purse strings. We're also going to give you some ideas about closing down your summer vegetable garden. All that and more is just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South, so stay with us.
This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Celia Chastain. Miss Celia is the head gardener at the Dixon Gallery and Gardens, and Walter Battle is here. Walter is the UT Extension Director in Haywood County. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
All right, Miss Celia, we've all found plants that we want to have more of, okay? But how do we go about getting a lot more of those plants?
Well, there are several different ways that you can go about that. Today we're going to do 2 methods.
Okay.
We're going to do stem cuttings, and we're going to divide up one of these perennial lobelias. This is black truffle.
Looks good.
It is. It's a really lovely plant. First of all, you want to, like if you go to the nurseries, kind of look in there and make sure you've got one that's thick and bushy. So then we're going to dump him out.
And we're going to make sure that they have nice root systems.
Oh yeah, you want the roots to be coming out the bottom of the pots that you get. And I've kind of already started on him to make it easier because he was really, really thick.
Is it because he was thick?
He was really thick and it was hard to get him out. But you can see how just by popping him out, he came out into 2 places. So then you want to look up in here and you'll see a crown of a plant. When you see that crown, just snap it off. So there's your next plant. This one I probably wouldn't go any further because that's like a mother plant. I try to keep my mothers together. And then you're just going to kind of keep on going. You can see in here there's like 2 more. So just keep twisting.
Oh, so you just twist them and just pull them apart.
Just want to keep the roots moving apart.
You need strong hands.
Yeah.
You can cut them. You can cut them with scissors, but I kind of like to just pinch them.
Okay.
So you've taken this $12 or $15 plant and you've turned it into 4 plants.
Wow. Okay.
And that's just one. If you dug it up out of your garden, it would have already had a multitude of children around it.
Okay.
So that's one. The next thing I want to do is the miniature hostas, because these are really popular right now, and they're probably one of the easiest things that you can divide up.
All right, I like easy.
Besides monkey grass.
Oh,
besides monkey grass. But these are real well defined little children, so you can just easily pop them off. And I did bring.
Oh, they did come up pretty easy.
Yeah. Oh, they're wonderful.
It has a nice root system.
Nice root system, and you just pop him in there, and you see you're really not that bad off from the beginning.
Right.
And this will take about maybe 4 weeks, and it will fill the pot.
Wow. Okay.
Because these had been divided about a month ago.
Okay.
By the volunteers that come to pot.
Now, do we need to go ahead and just water those as soon as we get them in the pot? Like that?
Once you get them in, just water them till the water runs out the bottom. I think that's one thing a lot of people, they don't water them enough or they water them too much. Yeah. So you just want to water them till the water runs out the bottom.
Okay. And we're only putting putting it down to where the soil is just right here, pretty much at the top.
Right.
Of
You just want that little crown showing. There's your original plant.
Oh, okay.
Right there. So I'm just going to leave that child with her.
Okay.
and just pot him right on up. And I didn't bring enough pots, so you've got an extra one.
Okay.
So there's another 4 off of 1 plant.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
see that.
And by spring, like I said, they will fill the pots, and then you can divide them again and give them to your neighbors.
Okay.
Because everyone likes hostas.
Yes.
Especially baby hostas.
Yes. Okay.
The next way that is pretty easy are soft tip cuttings, and I've chosen the Artemisia. This is Palace Castle.
Okay.
Because it's one of the easiest things to do. What I like to use is a mixture of peat, perlite, vermiculite, and sand.
Okay.
And I use equal amounts of those. And these are all things that you can buy, like Lowe's or
Okay, so you get them anywhere at big
Get them
box
anywhere, and in small bags as well. You don't have to get large bags of them.
Okay.
But I mix it all together. This is just one of our seed things. A lot of people like to use takeout containers that have the plastic lids on them, because it's sometimes if you put the plastic lid on, you're going to get a faster little mist house thing going.
I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people save them, but we have a mist system, so we don't need the little house.
Okay.
But you just want to come in. You want to come in about 4 inches and whack him off.
4 inches.
4
Okay.
inches.
Clean it. Okay.
Strip all
them
the
off.
foliage off, because you're trying to grow roots. You're not concerned about this anymore.
Okay.
For a minute. I always like to make a line through there, because once I get going, I'll just keep going.
So you've done this a time or two, right?
Oh yeah. Well, at the Dixon, Dale likes swaths and ribbons.
That sounds like Dale. Yeah.
That's right. So we want to be able to get that effect without breaking our bank too.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's just a really and it's fun. It's fun. We have one volunteer that comes to the Dixon, and that's all she does.
Wow. Okay.
Our cuttings, because she just likes doing it. She likes to come back and see how many of her children, and that's what she calls them.
Children,
How
yeah.
many of her children have
'Cause I
survived?
hear you saying that.
Yeah, they're like babies. So same thing. You could take every tip off of that. It would not hurt your original mother plant, because all she's going to do is just bush out
Right.
and make more plants. So you've got 2 different ways here. Cuttings and then division. Simple things. Fall is the best time.
So fall. Okay,
Oh,
to do
fall is
that.
the best time to plant perennials and get out in your garden, dig up and divide your things. Iris, wonderful time to divide your iris.
Okay.
So it's just a good time.
Well, let me ask you this. So how do you know which one of the plants you can use to do the stem cuttings?
Well, most all herbaceous plants,
Herbaceous,
like
okay.
this, dahlias, chrysanthemums, artemisias, all of those, verbenas, a lot of the herbs. If you have herbs and you want to bring them in, you can do the same thing with cuttings.
Okay.
You can go on down. We have hardwood cuttings, which are the woody parts, and those take a little longer. Those are the cuttings that you do in the wintertime.
Okay.
Late fall, wood cuttings, do abelias, barberries, edgeworthias.
Okay.
Those are cuttings that you do in the fall and winter.
Wow. Good education there, fall and then winter. Now, so this is not going to get crowded though once it starts producing the roots?
No,
So that'll be okay?
no, you'll just pull them up and then you'll just shake them apart, just like you did the hosta and the lobelia, just to divide the roots gently. And you can fill this whole thing up. You could have as many as 20 off of that one plant.
Wow, okay. And you put this under your mist system.
We put it under the mist system. You just need to keep this moist.
Just moist, okay.
Right. The first 3 days, I kind of like to really spray them or mist them. After that, once a day is fine to mist them. And it takes between 7 and 10 days. After the temperature drops like it has now, I put our cuttings on heat pads.
Wow.
You can do the same thing on top of your refrigerator. You don't realize it really, but you have a heating pad on top of your refrigerator.
I didn't realize that.
It's a great place to do cuttings up there. Just a regular heating pad. If you put a garbage bag over it, you get the same effect, because you're bringing the heat to the root section where you want it down at the bottom, and it just helps them to root faster.
I see you with all that wonderful information. And while we just have a little time left, I understand you be having a plant sale?
That's right. We'll have our plant sale October the 4th at the Dixon from 9 to 3. It's strictly perennials. They're all priced one price to go. Most of them need dividing. The rest need cutting.
Okay. Well, Ms. Celia, we thank you for that wonderful information and for that demonstration.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Walt, we're going to talk about closing down the summer vegetable garden, and we have some questions for you, okay?
All right.
So what are some things that you will take away from the 2014 growing season? Which is a good question.
Yes, well, you know, first of all, it was kind of, I know in our area, a repeat from last year. We had quite a bit of rain.
Did?
And we had kind of mild temperatures. And, you know, and that was real good. Now, we did plant a little late this year because of all the early rains, and that kind of delayed everything. And also, due to the mild temperatures, you know, some of the plants didn't get enough heat units maybe to really produce like they should have. But let me tell you, I saw some fabulous gardens and landscapes this year. Okay. So everything worked out pretty
So it worked out pretty good?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, what are some things that gardeners need to be doing right now?
Well, right now in, you know, shutting down your garden, it is time to, you know, till some lime in, till up all that old crop residue, clean your garden. If you have fruit trees, particularly apple trees, if you still have fire blight on the tree, because I saw some trees the other day and I took a sample, just still have all this stuff on there.
Yeah, wow.
And what's going to happen is this stuff is going to overwinter, and it's going to be there next spring to be right there to attack the trees. So if you have, if you had fire blight this year, please get up there with a ladder, prune all this stuff out. And really, if you're in an area where you can burn it, destroy it. Right. And then just be ready to spray some bleach solutions on that tree next year come, you know, what we call green silver tip, and you'll be ready to go. But please, do not let it overwinter. Do not let that overwinter.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad case.
Yeah, that's a pretty, yes. And it was
seriously looking at it like, yeah, that's pretty bad.
I mean, it was really bad.
Right.
So that's one of the things. And also, any mummified fruit, please get rid of it, because it'll just sit there and overwinter on that mummified fruit.
Okay, definitely want to get that out of there. So what is a major cultural practice that gardeners need to do to shut down the garden for this year? Well,
you know, like I said, once again, just, you know, get it clean. Also, you can use this time to, you know, maybe address some low fertility areas or something like that you recognize in the garden. So, you may want to do a little soil sample there to make sure that, you know, you're getting the right fertilizer there. Plan your crop rotation for next year. Where you had your beans this year, you might want to put your tomatoes and your corn there next year. So those are some of the things you will want to do right now. Start making those plans.
And why would they need to do that?
Because basically with tomatoes and corn being nitrogen lovers, they, you know, really the beans being legumes, put nitrogen in the soil. So you're kind of be helping yourself with your fertilizer costs next year by coming in that spot with the corn and the tomatoes this year.
Okay, good deal. All right, now this is a good one. How can gardeners extend the tomato harvest season? Because right now, with the low temps at night, tomatoes are plentiful. Yes, they're liking these low temps. So.
Yes. They do like it. The number one thing, though, still, and I bought a sample there, of course, is the tarp. Just go out at night when you're going to expect frost and just put your tarp over it. Okay. That's the main thing. But I will say this: once temperatures kind of get where they are consistently in the 60 degrees during the day, it's probably about time to go ahead on and pick your tomatoes. If you know, you can take some of them, let them ripen in the house. Yeah. You can also make chow, because at some point they'll start, you know, getting mushy. They're just, you know, they'll be mushy. So you kind of want to, you know, close it down at that point.
Right. Okay.
But I'm one of the main people who try to extend it. I pull that old blue top out, and my neighbors fuss about it looking ugly, but then they come over and get tomatoes and they're happy. So you know. So
it works out for them in the end.
Works out for them in the end.
Okay. Is it important to clean your gardening tools?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I was always taught growing up, take care of your tools and they'll take care of you. And I bought some samples here. What I did, I cleaned these tools with a 1 to 10 solution of bleach and water. So I've already done that. And then what I usually do, I take my oil. I just use 30 weight oil, really. And this hoe here, now I'm gonna tell you, this hoe has been in my family for like 60 years. Really, it was like my granddad's.
Okay.
And I just started just wiping it down. As you can see, Chris, I even put an edge on it.
I see that.
Yes, and make it easy to chop next year. I did a lot of chopping this year because with all the rain, we just kept having to fight those pig weeds and everything up there. And this is pretty much it. It's pretty simple, but I use, like I said, a bleach solution, of water. And I even, with my pruners, prune those. I've even sharpened it, and like I say, just wipe it down. Use a good old clean rag there, UT Orange there.
UT Orange, how about that?
Yes, so.
So how do you go about sharpening your tools, though?
Yes, well, I have a grinder.
Okay, you have a
so,
grinder.
I kind of put an edge on my shovels and holes that way. And then I just take a file, and kind of finish up. And with this here, I use a little knife sharpener that I have that puts a good little edge on there and make good clean cuts.
Okay.
Because that's part of also, you really want to make good clean cuts when you're pruning. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to, entryways for, bacteria and fungus.
That's
So
right.
you're exactly
That's
right. Okay. Now, what about our power equipment? We need to take care of those as well, right?
Yes, my tiller as well as my lawnmower. I'll be honest with you, I change the oil when I'm finished with them for the year.
Oh, okay.
I go ahead on and do that because a lot of times I don't have anything else to do. And also, as far as my 2-cycle,
Yeah.
what I do with my 2 cycles is I try to use all that fuel up.
Yeah,
Because it
I try to
doesn't
do that.
store well. And next year it'll be weak, and you won't be able to run your trimmer or your edger with that. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay. Can you use that stabilizer?
Yeah, some people, yes, you can use stabilizer. I know in like your lawnmowers and your tillers, I don't know about the 2-cycle deal, but a lot of times those are little small tanks anyway, so you can kind of empty them out or whatever.
Okay. But you clean all of your power
Oh,
equipment too,
yes,
like
I
your
clean
tiller, you make sure.
Yes, and I always sharpen my blades, and any repairs that need to be made, just go ahead on and do it now. And that way, come next spring, I mean, you ready to go?
Ready to go.
You know what I mean? You just ready to go, go get it. Because I'm serious. I get charged up.
Think you ready?
I'm ready to go with it.
You probably have one of those big tillers? Or do you have one of the
yes.
small managed tillers?
No, I have a nice size tiller. I'm serious, and I go everywhere and till like elderly ladies and people like that. I kind of till their gardens up and stuff like that. Just help them out. So that's why I have to clean my equipment also, because you don't ever know if you're bringing their diseases back to your place.
True.
So you
That's
have
a
to
good
kind
point.
of look at that.
Okay, well, Walter, we appreciate that good information. All right, this is our Q&A session. Miss Celia, you jump in there with us, okay?
All right.
All right, here's our first viewer email from Mary. She writes, can you use cedar shavings as mulch on your garden? So what do you think about that one, Walt?
I would just say, as far as vegetable gardens, I really don't like to use it.
Okay.
Because you kind of get into a little bit of an issue of it's very small, so you just have to constantly keep doing it. And then some people use the cedar chips, and they're so big that they allow light penetration in, which can also germinate weeds. So, and then there's also somewhat, some people have allergies to it, so I don't know, that may not be a good choice. So I would have to say no.
Okay.
I'd say no.
You say no?
No, we
Okay.
kind of stick with hardwood and pine.
Okay. Yeah, I stick with the hardwood myself, and I understand you use pine mulch in your vegetable garden.
Well, yes, I use I use straw.
Oh, straw. Okay,
Yes,
straw.
I just
Okay.
use wheat straw
Wheat
as
straw,
my
okay.
mulch in my vegetable garden, but I use pine mulch, straw needles all in my beds and stuff.
In your beds? Okay. Yeah, and I kind of agree with what's been said. Those cedar shavings are real small, so they decompose
Very quickly.
very quickly. So I wouldn't use them. I use the shredded hardwood mulch in my garden at home. It seems to work just fine. But anything that's organic material that can be broken down, used by the plants is what I prefer, in my garden, but no cedar shavings for me. So there you have it, Miss Mary. All right, here's our next question, which is a good one. Can I put diseased plants in my compost pile? So what do you think about that?
I really would prefer you not to do it. If you are a real good compost person and really understand getting the temperatures up and all that, then maybe you can get away with it. But under most circumstances, I would say not to.
Okay.
I would say no.
Yeah, I said no. I will say no because most people will tell me, oh, I do a good job with my compost pile. But you know what? when I ask them how many times, how often do you turn it? Turn it? Yeah. Oh, you got to turn it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it has to be turned, of course, to help generate the heat by those microorganisms. So
That's right.
And that's what's going to break down, of course, these diseased plants and the carbons and the nitrogen that you have in that compost pile. But if you're not turning it to create, that heat, then I would say no.
That's right, because you need like 140 degrees Fahrenheit to kill those pathogens, and that's, on days. You really need consistent days of that to really break that down. And see, in the wintertime, I don't know if we'll get that temperature up. I don't know.
I just think it's tough. Like I said, I don't know too many people that actually get their compost piles that hot.
Right.
And not only diseased plants, but weeds.
That's right, your weed seeds as well.
Right. Those things need to be
bag
just
them.
about barbecued.
Yeah, we bag
in the compost pile, because if not, they will definitely come back. But here again, whether you have a small compost pile or a large compost pile, they need to be turned often. Okay,
Yes.
turned, watered. Often, because you want to help those microbes, get in there and do their job, because they're the ones creating the heat.
Right.
So help them out, they'll help you out. Okay. Now here's our next question. If you want to add nitrogen to the soil, is it better to plant a cover crop, clover, or cover the beds with leaves and turn it under? Okay, pretty good question.
Pretty good question. And really, in truth, both are not bad practices.
Not bad.
But I would just plant the cover crop, the
Okay.
clover. And by the way, there is a lot of research going on right now on cover crops, even for big scale agriculture, where they're planting these radishes and veg and all kinds of things.
So radishes for cover crops.
Yes, yes. There's all kinds of research going on right now with cover crops. But to answer that question, I would plant the clover.
Okay. And you mentioned it before, but clover, legume. You want to tell us a little bit more about why we want to plant legumes?
Yes, because they pull nitrogen into the soil, and that's just going to help us out with our tomatoes and corn and those nitrogen-loving plants the next year. So you're just kind of helping yourself with fertility there.
Okay. So if you have the clover in place or other legumes, so once it starts growing, it stops. You cut it, you till it under. When do we do that?
Oh well, I do it in the spring.
Okay.
Is when I till.
So you're plant it now.
Right. Until it over into the spring. Yes.
Okay. Until into the spring. Okay. Cecilia, any comments? Any thoughts about that?
We use leaf mold. I'm a fan of cover crops, but we don't really have the area.
Sure.
We don't have enough sun for cover crops at the Dixon, so we use leaf mold. And
all right. So both good methods.
Yes.
So outside of crimson clover, you said vetch is one,
yes,
radishes.
vetch is one.
Are there any more that the homeowner could get?
Those are just the ones that pretty much I know homeowners can probably work with.
Okay,
yes.
but they can plant those now.
Right.
Okay, and just through the winter, then come back in the spring and just till it under.
Sure, and actually, they really should have been planted a little bit sooner, but we can still plant some of it now.
Okay, but just a little bit sooner would have been better.
Yeah, it would have been better, yes.
Okay, all right. Here's our next question. Is it time to plant pansies yet? Cecilia, what do you think about that one?
well, it's been our experience that if you get them in before October the 15th, they have a much better chance of succeeding throughout the winter.
October 15th, you get them in the ground before then. Okay, how do we need to go about preparing our soils for pansies?
Well, we just
What's the
till
best way?
ours. We till ours up. Add leaf mold.
Okay.
Pansies don't like a lot of nitrogen.
Okay.
Good. It's like fertilizer nitrogen.
Okay.
They're not real fans of that. But that's all we do is till. But we put bulbs under our pansies, so it's kind of a two-part thing for us.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I guess you build those beds up for your pansies, because I'm pretty sure they don't like wet feet either.
Oh no.
Right.
They don't like
So
wet feet.
Yeah, good drainage.
Good drainage is essential, but they're really easy. We use a lot of panolas as well, which is a pansy and a viola
yeah.
crossed.
Right.
But it's maybe a little hardier. Violas tend to be a little hardier
Okay.
than the pansies, and then panolas are supposed to be the hardiest.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it from our head gardener, Cecilia.
Yes, yes.
All right, Walt and Cecilia, we're out of time.
Okay, thank you for having us.
Be sure to connect with us. We'll send you weekly email updates about Family Plot. Just go online to WKNO.org and sign up under Get Local Show Updates. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next time for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.